1 in 8 people of Korean descent does not live in Korea, not as a visitor, but as a permanent resident raising children in another language. The Overseas Koreans Foundation places that total at 7,300,000 people, distributed across 175 countries. That is a larger diaspora than the entire population of Denmark. The geography ranges from Koreatown in Los Angeles to a mountainous prefecture on China's northeastern border, from suburban Toronto to small communities in Kazakhstan and Paraguay. These people carry different passports, speak with different accents, and belong to countries that are not Korea. Yet something still connects most of them back. That is the question this episode follows. The single largest concentration of overseas Koreans outside Asia is in the United States, with roughly 2,600,000 ethnic Koreans. In Los Angeles County alone, more than 300,000 Korean Americans have settled, making its Koreatown one of the most commercially active Korean communities in the world outside Seoul itself. China is home to approximately 2,300,000, the vast majority of them in Yanbian, Korean Autonomous Prefecture in Jilin Province, descendants of families who crossed the Tumen River during Japanese colonial rule. Canada holds around 240,000, with Toronto at the center of that community. Smaller but significant communities exist in Germany, Australia, and Japan, ranging from tens of thousands to several hundred thousand each. The Overseas Koreans Foundation conducts a full census of this population every 2 years. The most recent comprehensive count was published in 2023. The Korean diaspora was not a single event. It was assembled in waves, each shaped by different pressures. The first wave came in the early 20th century, when Japanese colonial rule stripped many Korean farmers of their land, driving them north across the Tumen River into Manchuria in northeastern China, the ancestors of today's Yanbian community. A second wave followed the Korean War, creating early communities of adoptees and war brides across the United States and Western Europe. The critical turning point for Korean America came in 1965, when the United States reformed its immigration law, abolishing national origin quotas and opening the door to a surge of Korean professionals, doctors, engineers, and graduates, who settled primarily in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. In the 1970s and 80s, South Korea's government brokered labor contracts, sending tens of thousands of workers to construction sites in the Middle East and to mines and hospitals in West Germany. Each wave left a different kind of community behind. For most of the 20th century, distance worked against connection. Third-generation Korean Americans often did not speak Korean, and Yanbian Koreans were Chinese citizens whose relationship with the peninsula was shaped by political borders rather than cultural exchange. What began to reverse that drift was digital infrastructure and cultural production arriving at the same time. KakaoTalk, South Korea's dominant messaging platform used by approximately 47 million people domestically, has become a primary communication channel for overseas Koreans maintaining daily contact with family networks. The Korean wave, its music, television dramas, and food, gave diaspora communities a shared cultural vocabulary that crosses both geography and generation. South Korea also operates a network of approximately 1,500 Korean language schools across more than 100 countries, providing structured transmission of language and identity to children who have never lived in Korea. The result is a diaspora that remains measurably more connected to its origin country than most comparable communities of similar age. Korea's diaspora is a clear illustration of how a mid-sized nation can extend cultural influence far beyond its borders without military or economic dominance. The legal framework for this, including the Overseas Koreans Act of 1999 and the establishment of the Overseas Koreans Foundation, was partly deliberate policy, but the Korean wave that amplified it was not planned from above. Entertainment traveled faster than bureaucracy, and it carried identity with it. Every major diaspora eventually faces the same question: what does the next generation actually inherit? Korea's answer so far has been to invest in the infrastructure of transmission, language schools, streaming platforms, cultural centers, rather than relying on sentiment alone to do the work. Whether that holds across a fourth or fifth generation is genuinely uncertain. But the experiment Korea is running is already the most ambitious cultural continuity project any East Asian nation has attempted at this scale.